but that's fine.
Should we start?
Yeah.
I'm starting. Okay. Good morning. I'm Simon, partner at Million Labs.
Yeah, welcome from my side as well. I'm Verena, also partner at Million Labs.
So just a quick introduction to Million Labs. Who are we? What do we do? We're a investor into idea stage startups that primarily built on a no-code stack. We've worked with about 1,400 startups in the last few years from all over the world. And many of those startups have gone on to raise investment, etc. We're a team of roughly 60 or so developers, a bunch of designers, some marketeers, some startup advisors, and then kind of an investment side as well. So that's us. But before we dive in, I'm going to ask you now, hands up, a bit of a poll, a bit of customer sort of feedback. Who thinks that AI is a disaster for the no-code industry? Hands up. Nobody. Okay. Who thinks it's a revolution? And who's on the fence? Not sure. Okay. So most people are thinking this is a revolution. All right. So we're going to go through this, and then I'm going to ask you again, and we'll see whether your opinions have changed. Verena.
Exactly. Cool. Now then, let us get started. So today we have the pressing question, whether AI is going to make the no-code industry redundant, or in other words, is AI a disaster or a revolution for the no-code industry? And what we will do is we will present you both perspectives. We will then also make some predictions, give you some numbers, and then open the floor for questions, to share also some of your experiences with us. And yeah, currently we face no-code version 2 as a question. Okay. So currently we face no-code version 2, and we want to look at how did we actually get there. So it all started in the 90s with Visual Basics by Microsoft, and then actually more and more tools entered the market, such as Wix, Squarespace. They all made it way more intuitive for us to build apps. And then in the 2010s, tools like Zapier and Bubble entered. So really, app development got really quicker and cheaper for us. It's so much more simple today to build an app, and this is why people estimate a big growth rate. So we see it's reflected in the numbers. So we looked up studies by Gartner, who estimated the whole low-code development industry to be around $14 billion by the end of this year. So this is a growth rate by more than 20%. And also by 2026, he estimates that almost 80% of the users of low-code are actually all non-technical. And obviously this is driven by a more borderless workforce, by us going more and more remote, and it all looks quite positive, right? So when we just look at these numbers, it seems like no-code has a great and very optimistic future, but to that topic, to get a more complete picture, we also need to look at AI, right, and how this might impact the whole no-code industry. And we want to look at the beginning of it and the growth rates. So obviously ChatGPT as the most popular tool started in November 2022. And within only 5 days, it reached 1 million users. And within only 90 days, it reached 100 million users. So this sounds a lot, and it sounds outstanding. But to give you even, or to make it even more outstanding, we want to compare it to some of the very popular platforms. So when we look at the 1 million user benchmark at first, we can see that Netflix actually had 3 years to reach that 1 million user benchmark. Then Dropbox 7 months, and it took Spotify around 5 months to reach it. So again, let us compare 5 months to 5 days, right? that's now like a lot, right? And we can do the same exercise with the second part, like 100 million users, right? So you can see like Instagram, it took them like around 2.5 years, TikTok around 9 months, again 9 months in comparison to 90 days. That's just massive. And we can clearly say that what AI achieved in that time is just really unique, and no other platform has achieved that success in such a short period of time. So that might be great, but it might be also very challenging, right? And that's what we want to talk next, and where Simon will give you some greater detail of the disaster story.
The disaster. Okay, so the vision, I guess, or the dream of AI is that we can describe an app and that it will just build it. So we can say, hey, we want a marketplace, we want it to look a little bit like Airbnb, we want the login box to have a username and password. We make an oral description and the AI just builds it. That's the kind of dream. And that's where we might end up. And the question is, if we do end up at that point, is why would you go from AI to no code, which is ultimately going to code? Because we all know that the no-code tools are all creating code in the background anyway. Why would you put that extra layer in there? Why wouldn't you go AI code? And so that starts to ring alarm bells, and it should do for all of us, because if we suddenly don't need no-code, all of these tools, that 14 billion industry just disappears overnight. It's gone. And we're back to going to code. And all the developers in the coded environment are gone as well. So that's the kind of disaster that might occur. And that's bad for the no-code industry, potentially. And we're already seeing bits of this. You can't see because it's happening behind the prompts there. But you can go to ChatGPT today, and you can use, well, you can see it happening now. You can go to there, and you can use their code interpreter. They've just renamed it something else. But the code interpreter, say, build me a login prompt in PHP, and a login process in PHP, and it'll do it for you. This is just the beginning of it. And there are lots of examples of it doing even more than this. People doing some of that description, it's starting to actually build stuff. You might be also aware that Microsoft's GitHub have a thing called Copilot, which is there to help and support developers, and it can pull code and generate snippets, etc. And GitHub produced a report saying that they, in their analysis they've done, it improves the developers' efficiency by 55%. So those using GitHub Copilot, 55% increase in efficiency means you don't need the other half of the developers anymore. So we can already see that actually efficiency either means we can do more quicker or we can do more with less. So that's one of those aspects that's happening. So this is already happening, and it's happening fast. I mean, we're on ChatGPT 4 multimodal now. So we were only launched in November last year, 3.3, 3.5. And we're now already on 4. DALL-E 3 is just out last week into beta. I don't know if you've seen that, but that's the images side of things. That now can do images with text. So if you want to build a logo, you describe what you want in the logo, and it produces the image. If you want to do images for blog posts with titles in it and stuff like that, you can now do all that. Before that was quite difficult because it wasn't very good with the words, but now it is. So designers, Fiverr and all those kind of cheap logo stuff, all gone away. So here's a couple of predictions from us, bold predictions possibly. We suspect in the next 18 months, if you've got a niche app, so let's say, I don't know, you want a mobile app for pizza delivery, I think that AI will be able to build that with a verbal interface, like I described. I want a pizza app, I want it to be able to do A, B, and C. It'll be able to build that. I think in the next 5 years, it'll be able to build any app. You'll literally describe the app that you want it to build, and an AI engine will be able to build that for you and produce it into code and push it live for you. So that's a fairly bold prediction. Everyone's looking doomed and gloomed. And if we zoom out a little bit, not just from the no-code industry, what does this mean? If you look into the wider picture, we've been through revolutions before. We've been through agricultural, into industry, industrial revolution, into the information revolution. The difference between those and potentially what's happening now as we go into an AI revolution or intelligence revolution, whatever you want to label it as, is the speed. And as Verena said, you know, things are moving fast. Well, the kind of agricultural revolution happened over 100 plus years and arguably is still happening. You know, we're still seeing drones now appearing in agriculture. We're seeing autonomous tractors and combines and so forth. It's still ongoing, hundreds of years. And that's usually a generational change or multi-generation change. But we're now talking about a change that might occur in 10 years' time, within 10 years. That has never happened ever before. We've just never experienced that. And the impact of that is changes in education system, changes in jobs, what jobs are available, what new jobs are going to be out there, what jobs are no longer valid, design has gone, code has gone, etc. And that speed of change typically leads to revolution, but not in a good sense, rioting on the streets, wars. So that's the doom end of this AI revolution, is that potentially this leads to wars.
Yeah, let us now zoom in again and look at the no-code industry in particular. So we identified 3 factors that we consider as especially challenging for the no-code industry these days. And together combined, we define them as the perfect storm. What we mean by that is basically they reinforce themselves and they make it very hard for the no-code industry to find a way out, right? So let me start with the first one. So the architecture, how no-code tools are just built. So most tools actually launched 2 years ago, and obviously back at that time they were not native AI. So those tools really need to find ways how to re-architecture, right? Like how to really change the structure of the tool to make it AI supportive. And not only like plugins and so on, but really, you know, to make it part of a customer journey, part of a use case so that it's tangible for users, right? And this, I mean, takes not only time, but it takes also a lot of money, right? And this is where the second factor comes into play. A lot of like leading no-code companies face a lot of technical debt these days. Why? Because the industry just evolved so quickly. I mean, I attended the no-code summit last year, and the topics just changed, right? Like back then we were like around 1,000 people. Now we are at least twice as many. So you see a lot of players enter the market, like enterprises enter the market. But this also means that we adapted a lot of new user requirements, right? We are more and more challenging, and it's like no code is no longer seen and only building a prototype and only playing around, but it's actually making it possible for people to build complete products, so to say, right? And this obviously all costed chunks of money, right? And this is now the problem that they are facing now is that AI, to make the tools AI supportive, it would require, again, a lot of investment, which is just very difficult at that stage. And the third factor is also regarding financing. Maybe you saw that a lot of no-code, leading no-code companies raised venture capital funding the last year. So let's take Airtable as an example. I think they were valued at around 20 billion something. So we see like really high market validations, right? And it's just these days, it's just very difficult for the market to keep up with that level, right? So these very high market validations led to the fact that no-code players had to look for ways how to make the business more profitable. And this is why we also see that many shift to enterprise. I don't think it's only a question of with whom do I want to work with, but it's also a question of, okay, who is really having like bigger ticket sizes, etc. So to summarize, we identified 3 factors the architecture, the technical depth, as well as prior evaluations that we consider as the perfect storm, basically the factors that make it very, very difficult for the no-code industry to adjust to AI in a very quick time. Maybe they will do it over time, but as we saw the numbers that we presented to you, like AI is just, you know, inventing or, you know, like adapting at such a level that really like where speed matters more than ever.
Okay, and I think to add to Verina's point there, this conference is one of the primary things about it was AI. I don't know if you've been around and talked to any of the no-code tools, but most of them don't have any AI in them. They haven't done it. I think we saw one from Glide yesterday who've done some good stuff, but it's very superficial. And that, I think that points to this perfect storm. They can't, or they're finding it difficult to do it because of the financial implications of it, etc. So we're in an AI conference and none of them are announcing really any AI features. You know, at best we're talking about we're going to stick our manuals into, you know, into AI and we'll have a chatbot on the front of our manuals. This is not AI. So let's talk about the happy side, the revolution. This is going to change our industry and be good news for us all. I think one of the things that might happen is that actually all of the kind of big no-code tools that we're talking about today, Webflow, WeWeb, Bubble, etc., we might see new entrants come into the market that are native AI. And I think that's a real possibility now that they just jump straight in. I don't know if you've seen or heard that Apple, former designer from Apple, Johnny Ives, has been talking with OpenAI about a native phone, smartphone, and releasing an AI phone. So a replacement for your Apple phone, etc. These guys are going to jump straight in and it'll be native at the operating system level. So I can definitely see us having new no-code tools appear that are native AI and actually just jumps that. Because if you think about it, you don't need the drag and drop interface anymore. You need to change it to an audio or a text or a visual interface. And so that changes the game. And so we might see some new entrances. So that might be interesting. The other thing I think that we're going to see is that to learn code is probably something like 16 weeks to become a junior developer in code. In something like Bubble, 16 hours. In something where is no code or AI beneficial or AI enabled, we're probably talking about 6 hours, something like that. And that lowers the barrier again, you know, it just drops again, which means more people, it's back to that kind of 80% of people that now have got access to the platforms. We see that barrier drop again and we see the speeds go up. So we might go from 6 months in code to build an app to 6 weeks in no code to 6 days in no code plus AI. And this is a positive thing. Certainly it's a positive thing for the customer because the prices obviously come down and the speed goes up. I think for us, it probably means volume of projects, not, you know, one big project that solves us, but actually there's lots of projects. The other thing that might save our bacon, as it were, and no one's ever said this ever, laws and regulation change might be a good thing. No one says that. The EU is kind of ratifying an AI framework at the moment, so I think the EU might get there first in terms of laws and regulations before the US. What the effect this will have is it'll slow things down. And I think that might give a chance for the no-code tools, etc., to catch up and build in these features because this slows it down. I think if it's let to run, it'll run a lot quicker than maybe this. Now, the challenge is if EU does it and America doesn't and other parts of the world doesn't, it's not going to work. It's a bit like a, you know, nuclear disarmament. Everybody has to disarm at the same time, otherwise it doesn't work. So some challenges there, but that might be a good thing. The other good thing, I think, for everybody sat in the room and here at the summit is we have already learnt a new skill in the last 3, 4, 5 years. We've gone from whatever we're doing, and it's a very diverse group. People have come from designers, people have come from code to no code, people have come from, come through our boot camps like ballet dancers, boat captains, you know, you name it, and they've learned to no code. And so I think that ability to adapt is there within us. So we will adapt, I think, very quickly to the AI change. And I know certainly lots of the agencies are now rebranding themselves as AI and no code, etc. So that's already happening. So I think that's a positive for us.
Yeah, so back to our original question, is AI a disaster or a revolution for the no-code industry? We think that the future might look or will find a hybrid way. So we think that AI will obviously continue to like release new features and will also affect many other industries, not only the no-code industry. But at the same time, we think that no code will find some ways to keep up that level and basically make release new features that are AI supportive. Now, I explained to you the perfect storm and the factors that make it very challenging. What we think is, what might be very important to drive forward into a more positive solution is very the people behind. Simon mentioned it shortly. I think there's no other industry where people have such a diverse background and where people, just come to us, even in our team, it's very funny for me when I interview people and I always ask this question, like, what did you do before? And why did you actually shift to no code? And, the question that we always hear is like, yeah, people really, like the concept really resonated with them and they like to question the status quo. They like to just learn like completely new skills and they love to explore. And we think that this mindset is a very important catalyst in order to combine no code and AI. And no matter whether you are a developer here in the room, whether you are a startup advisor, an agency, we think that overall we should really appreciate the AI evolution because it just impacts so many areas in our life, and we at Mini Labs definitely enjoy being part of it. And again, going back to our initial poll, let us do that again now. Like, who thinks that AI is a disaster for the no-code industry? Okay.
Such a positive group.
Such a positive.
Did I not tell you what a disaster this is?
Okay, and who thinks it's a revolution? Okay, and
way too positive.
Who just thinks like I still don't know? Okay. Okay, yeah, that's also fine. Cool. With that, guys, we want to open the floor for any questions and also hear your experiences and thoughts about that topic. Andres.
Is there an argument to be made that perhaps what is bad for the no-code industry can still be good for... So is there an argument to be made perhaps that what is bad for the no-code industry can still be good for the no-coder? So, for example, one of the benefits that I see in being in this space is the variety and exposure to different products, different apps. So in the past couple of years, especially in a client-facing context, I'm exposed to fintech, SaaS tools, all the across the board of different projects. So perhaps that places us, as in the people working in this space, as the right candidates for the fluency in the semantic expression of building products with AI?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And it's funny because last year at the conference, the question was actually, is there also something positive, like for coders, right? And we have now actually no code, and now it's the same with no code and AI. Funny, just 1 year. Anyway, yeah, so, I mean, again, at that example, code and also no code, right? Also, like, no code didn't really replace code, right? Like, both coexisted, and also there, like, people didn't have to do like these repetitive tasks. And I think the same will also happen with, AI, because to be honest with you, I mean, who likes to really scope out a project? Who likes to really think about designers? Number one challenge for all developers is, I hate putting together layouts, right? What does the customer want, right? Like, it's just so difficult. And I think a good skill for a developer to make use of the AI, industry is now to look at, okay, how can I actually use AI to better understand what the customer wants, right? So to support that. So let's say you as a developer, you kind of changed the role and are more interacting with the customer and the tool. So you're like, you could say, okay, what type of app do you have in mind? I can show you, okay, but you still actually need to, the value is still, I think, from a developer then to say, okay, these tools give you the screens, but there's still someone needing to put the logic behind, right? And I can tell you from my experience, this database doesn't make sense, whatever, right? So I think it's a combination of it. Yeah.
I think just to add to that, and Verena, as we were walking here, we're discussing exactly that point, is how does it change for us? What changes? I think if you've worked with customers, you realise they can describe what their app wants, they want it to do. They can build it in their mind and they can kind of semi-articulate that to you, but they don't understand the logics. They have these magic things that appear, like just data appears into the app when it gets to this screen. Well, where the hell did that come from? And we know to ask those questions. And so I think that ability to kind of do the user journey and know what the logic is still going to be required for AI, because you've still got to tell AI what the journey is. So we might not be called developers anymore. We'll be called something else, but that logic is a key skill that we can transfer.
Do you have any examples of companies that have released native AI tools or are in the process of working on? Any names?
In the no-code space.
In the local space.
I mean, there's lots of point solutions in the no-code space.
I'm saying, as you were saying, native AI, there's no code, they're just from the ground up.
I've not come across any,
Yeah,
but I bet somebody has. Yeah, I've not seen any. It's perhaps a bit too early. Everybody's building off the back of ChatGPT and doing very sort of niche stuff, blog post writing, etc., etc.
Thank you.
It's not really a question, more of a comment. First of all, I'm going to change my travel plans and go home earlier this afternoon. No, I'm just joking. I'm not going to do that. All of the studies that try to answer that doomsday question, is AI going to replace the workforce? Most people seem to think that people that pick up AI skills will replace people that don't pick up AI skills. Most of the studies, most of the research seems to point to that one prediction. What are your thoughts on how that'll turn into reality in the no-code space?
In the no-code space, I think my take on it is, yeah, and I agree that I've read those things, but they're assuming that you have the choice of not to take the AI tools, as it were. So like there's the guy or the girl working here on a Word document, and there's a guy or girl here going, I'm working on a Word document, but I've got AI plugged into it and I'm doing it faster and better than you. But what if neither of them can do that because the interface is AI? Like the rest of it goes away. So everybody's using AI at that point. So you don't need both of those people anymore. You only need the one person sat in front of it because they can produce much quicker. So I think people are thinking about that's the interim step, and that makes sense in the very short term. But if it moves fast enough, all of these interfaces go away and it all changes to a voice or text interface. I mean, that's what the front end's going to look like.
Yeah, and I also think, it's not that black and white. I mean, people want to label it like that, but I think it's probably a bit what we said before, that these roles merge, right? And I think it's very important for no-code developers also to be very open for that topic and to rather look like, okay, how can I actually make use of it? Because at the end, I think a trend that we see is a lot of people, when a new industry arises, such as also no-code back then, people are first of all also very confused, right? Customers are confused. Okay, which tool should I use? Oh, this all sounds easy, but how can I actually get started? And I think it's a bit the same with AI. I'm subscribed to an AI newsletter, and like literally every second day, like new companies, like for every specific use case. And I think like the clue of this, or also for developers, in order to not, put us into this, hey, I'm replaced mindset, is really to say, okay, how can we put that into a whole journey? Like, let's say also for a developer, I think it's very good when you understand and study the market so that you can say, hey, I have development experiences, and I understand the different AI tools. I can put that into something tangible for you. I know how to combine the different tools, because that's, I think, a big edge. People are otherwise they're just pieces, and you need to put these pieces together, combined with some, with some development experience.
I think there are two paradigms in what we are discussing. First, what AI does is perfect, and I don't think that this is perfect. So there is someone who needs to adapt what AI did. So AI does the rough stuff. I'm describing something verbally, and it does something, but I do need to do the next step. That's one thought on it, and the other one, I guess I lost.
But I think you're absolutely right. But that's true today.
Yeah.
Okay.
But maybe not tomorrow, because you have one AI engine that is creating whatever you said, and you have another AI engine running the use cases that tests it and says, hey, to the first AI engine, that didn't work, it failed that test, rewrite it, right? And then you have a third engine doing something different and a fourth engine doing so. So I think you're right today, but in the future, no. I think it will be able to do it. It'll get better and better.
So thanks for the talk first. So at Million Labs, what do you do to prepare for the perfect storm, or so in case it will be the disaster?
Definitely.
We sacked all the developers.
I started, and maybe Simon can continue. But I mean, we see ourselves as a startup investor, right? And we use no code as a tool, basically, to help startups get up to speed, basically. And we collected a lot of data points, and where we kind of see, or where we hope that we can, have an edge with AI, is that we can train an AI bot with all the data points that we got from startups, basically. Which industries, when do they typically fail? How many users do they have to reach the next stage? Yesterday we gave a talk about our start, launch, grow methodology, and we work with many founders so far. So we have a lot of data points, also with common questions. Hey, what do I do? What do I do as a next step, right, to get customers, that kind of stuff. So we are currently training an AI bot so that ideally it's like, not only like me or Simon or our startups advisor always like saying the same answers basically to the question, but we have kind of like an AI bot for that. This is the startup side, and then we train also like an AI bot for common technical questions like onboarding, that kind of stuff, to support it, but not on this main decision level, rather to nurture, to make use of our data.
Yeah, and I think my answer is, we're not doing anything yet. I don't know. It's happening too fast. Like, we're rabbits in the headlights. It's coming towards us, or the train on the track. So I don't know. Yeah, sure, we're starting to use AI ourselves internally, but I don't know.
Thank you. I have an agency as well, and we are smaller, only 10 developers and designers. But what I can see is some developers just not using Copilot because they are scared of being replaced by AI. I heard also that Figma is doing AI training, and there is an opt-out. I anticipate that some designers will opt out from Figma AI. So yes, I wanted to know a bit more about your team. You are a bigger team. If it's cheaper to do app, you're not going to maintain probably a 70 people team, otherwise you will increase a lot your production. Did you see this kind of reaction? How your team is reacting to AI?
I don't think we have seen that, because we're no-coded and there isn't AI in most of the no-code tools yet, unless obviously we're adding it. I mean, what we are seeing is obviously every startup in the last 6 months has said it changed from Web3 and crypto to being, we want to put AI into our apps. So with little understanding of what that meant, just this kind of magic thing again. You know, it just does magic stuff. So we've seen massive demand, and I think that's obviously meant that our developers have had to kind of get up to speed on how to implement it and what it can do, what it can't do, and prompt engineering and all that stuff. So that's what we've seen, but we haven't seen it kind of being pushed back from the developers. But I think that's back to that other point, is that actually I think this, the no-code developers are really adaptable, and they will just move with it. They move with new tools really quickly, so I don't think it'll be a problem.
And I think, I guess no one of us really has an answer to that. We said that to Simon earlier, today the talk's a bit different than yesterday, but because today is a bit just predictions, right? And yesterday was talking from experiences. So, and I think oftentimes what helps, at least, we don't have a course or something where we think, okay, do this, study this, to, be prepared. But I think what we started doing is at least to put together people to talk about this topic, right? And to maybe also say, hey, what do you think about this? Because oftentimes, at least in our setup, what we can see, 60 people in 20 countries, we are all remote, and sometimes this is a bit, you have a lonely journey, and then paired with fear or what's happening, it can really help, I think, just to people like today, right? I think no one will have more clue even after this presentation, right? But at least we talked about it, right? Which can sometimes help. So yeah, I think this is just a way for us to tackle or to deal with that in our team.
If it's escalation, as you said, it's if everyone says, okay, I want to use AI, I want to train those models, so it will just replace us, then it could work together. But if some says, okay, let's train it,
Terminator, fight the drones.
That's the best one in AI, then maybe we can get an edge.
Yeah, I think history tells us that fighting it doesn't work long term. The cat is out the bag, as we would say, I think. So we might slow it down a bit, but we won't win.
Simon, we don't win friends here.
No, okay, maybe not.
Well, we did with the armament.
With the
nuclear weapons.
So far, yeah, that's true. That's true. Last question in the back. Oh, no, you've got the mic. Next.
Do you think that AI tools will be useful or become more useful for creative areas, if you really want to create unique content, or for example, if you write a blog post with ChatGPT, it's really kind of generic in most cases. You have to improve it yourself. So do you think that AI will be able to improve in those senses in creating unique stuff, or is that something which maybe no-code tools can kind of capitalize on?
I think, if you go to our blog on Million Labs, I wouldn't say all, but a high percentage are now written by AI. This whole talk was written by AI. The slides were designed, literally.
Not everything, but a lot. The
It's
titles certainly do.
The script, the title, the abstract, all of that was just ChatGPT. So I think, it's not there 100% yet. But back to that point, none of it's there 100%. But it's pretty good. Its reasoned arguments are really good. When we said we want to do a talk about AI revolution and what it means for the no-code industry, it just came back with all these points that we put into this, and you're thinking, Jesus, that's really smart. And obviously, it's just trawling the internet and looking for those things. But I think it will get there. It'll be very good.
And also to your point, because you mentioned in terms of visualization, and this creativity, I think that, as Simon mentioned, in terms of text output, this was the no-brainer or the very typical use case. At the beginning, the creative things were not so good, but you can now see it's getting better very quickly. And I think, I'm not sure whether it's then unique content, but I think it's it makes it way easier actually to find out what the customer wants, because you can probably, the way we imagine it's hey, there's a customer saying, hey, these are my brand guidelines, I like the Uber app, I like that style, customers can just talk on a very abstract level, and then you will probably get screens designed, and then it's probably easy to say, hey, I think I need something special because otherwise it looks too normal, that kind of stuff. But so I think, probably the next step will be that it will give you at least like a framework that you can use to then customize it and make it, special to your case. And whether it's then unique, that's probably a bit more in the future. But yeah, I guess it will come next.
Last question over there. Because it's hot and sweaty in here.
A long way. I have one remark and one question. So you mentioned AI replacing like all this stuff, building, etc. So if I understand correctly, that would probably be like something already close to artificial general intelligence, right? You just talk to it or you just write it. It does everything end to end. I personally, I played a bit, with AutoGPT, Baby AGI, etc. A couple of experiments. I personally, at least as of now, don't see it coming in the near future. And I think also the society will not let it happen very quickly. This is just my humble opinion. And I think you still need a lot of orchestration in that area. And so the question is basically after that, do you take the existing no-code tools and, as you mentioned, there are some things, but they're very superficial, or you just start from the scratch? Basically, you build the tools that help you orchestrate already AI. So there is like LLMs, there are, frameworks like LangChain, etc. More things are happening. So I think that could be an interesting approach. And my question is, following from that, let's say if you already have clients who want application, but also combining that with AI, as you said, they want to integrate AI, have a chatbot or whatever, maybe even more complicated in the future. How do you solve it currently? Do you put a team together, let's say of a no-coder and an AI expert to be able to build that application, or using some solutions already out there?
Yeah, I can take the technical question last. In terms of what we do today, it's mostly ChatGPT, and it's mostly just API integration. And no, actually, mostly that's the no-code developers. There's no special AI; they figure it out. And I think that the hard bit is not the technical implementation of the API, because that's easy. It's the prompt engineering, and actually, a lot of that comes back to the customer. And I will say to the customer, go figure it out in ChatGPT. Like, figure out the prompt to get the right answer, and that's then the prompt that we'll put into the no-code platform, because it's already figured it out, and it should come back with the same results. So if they can do it themselves, we can just implement that in. That's the skill that's becoming. It's that prompt engineering. And I was thinking yesterday, actually, this is just a bit ad hoc, but when we're doing the scoping, and we're doing the user personas or the user types or whatever you call it, it's actually, we should be almost building that as a prompt. You are the project manager, this is what you do, this is your role within the app, etc. We build that as a AI user persona, because we can use that as the contextual. Every time that we're doing something for that particular user type, that's the context that goes into the prompt that goes with it. So I think there's some, I can see some next steps of things that we need to start doing in our scoping that changes things. Yes, I don't know if that answers. It's a random thought. Good, thank you, everybody. One more question.
One more question.
If those want to escape.
I'm a big believer that change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And I can see that you embrace change with AI, which is brilliant. What's something personally with Million Labs do you believe you're going to struggle to change in your organization with AI, or struggle to embrace with AI?
That's a really difficult question, isn't it? I'd like to think we're fairly adaptive, but
yeah, we are adaptive, but obviously we also think about, okay, all our apps obviously are also built on no code right now, right? So obviously we also ask ourselves the question, in how far basically this will stay the same. Probably not, but I think where we see ourselves, as we mentioned before, as more like this startup builder side of things. And I think we said it always with Simon that there are probably more and more trends coming, and we want to build upon of it, be it no code, low code, AI or whatever. I think these tools at the end, they all do the same thing. They make it easier for people to get started. And I think that's the trend we want to leverage. Will it change our structure? Probably quite a lot. Probably not tomorrow, but a lot. But I think just as you said, right, embracing that and always having it in mind, I think helps at least.
Thanks everybody.